G'day viewers, my name's Graham Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do. Okay folks, well we are in Utah for this particular filming in a little place called Alpine in Utah with one of America's finest plein air artists, Mr. Bryan Mark Taylor. Welcome to the show, bud. How are you?
Thank you.
Bryan is one of the leading plein air artists in the country. He's also an inventor, a lecturer, an entrepreneur. He's done some quite amazing things. World traveller, without a doubt, goes to Cuba, China, Italy, Slovenia. I mean, you've just been just about everywhere, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And literally, I mean, it's a fantastic lifestyle. He's a father of 4 beautiful kids, lovely wife, Hayley. I mean, you guys literally jet around the world doing this, don't you?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun.
So how did it all come about? I mean, you're 40 years of age now and you've been painting for 20, so you must have just done this as you left college or something.
Well, yeah, I've been lucky to, like right from the get-go, be able to start making a living doing it. Although when I finished grad school, I did do some teaching at the Academy of Art University, and in San Francisco, which is a great school, and I made a lot of nice connections there. And also, I love California and the kind of the outdoor. The outdoors are so great there. That's a place where I could go and learn plein air painting. And that's something that I do to this day, is I go outdoors and capture scenes on location, capturing the light and the color that I see wherever I go. Great
lifestyle, and you've got a Bachelor of Arts degree and also a Master's degree in Fine Arts.
I do, yeah.
You're just showing off.
That's right.
That's fantastic. But today we're going to be painting one of the scenes that you took of last time you were in China.
That's right.
And whereabouts was this?
So we actually took the whole family to Beijing, and it was just a really neat experience to take the kids there. But also for me, I like to travel around the world and go to places that are really changing. What I'm looking for is what I call vanishing landscapes, and that's what I like to capture, those places that won't be around much longer. Definitely not when my kids are my age.
Yeah. You're going to have a fantastic day today. This young man is a brilliant workshop teacher as well. Been around the world, done some amazing things. So I'm going to get out a shot and I'll let you to take over.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, Bryan, before we start, part of the situation of you being an inventor is the fact that in conjunction with Strata, you actually invented the plein air easel that you've got right there now.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
So I've been plein air painting for a very long time, and I have, since I was about 17, I've been out about plein air painting. And so I'm 40 now, so it's been quite a few years. About 15 years ago, I went to Italy and I had a wood easel, which is kind of the traditional thing, to have these wood easels that have been around since the time of Monet, right, and the original Impressionists. And the thing is, the technology hasn't changed a whole lot, but our lifestyle has. We like to hop on and off airplanes and things like that. And so the wood easel that I had kind of broke apart, and while I was in Europe, and I'm like, what am I going to do about this? Because I was, I went to a kind of a small little town, and basically I wanted to make something that was indestructible, something that I could time in, in and out. I could just go to the place and not worry about my equipment, and so that's kind of how the Strata easel was born. And we have there's 2 different models. We have this is the Mark II. And then we have a series of the original Stratas. There's 4 different sizes depending on what you like to do. If you're going backpacking out in the wilderness, you want a smaller, lighter, even something compact and light. But if you want to go, just painting out of your car, you're going to do something a lot bigger. And it's really neat to see how this whole thing has grown. Originally, I just designed it for myself, but now it's being used worldwide. It's fun to see pictures of people in places like the North Pole and all the way to Easter Island, Australia, China, everywhere, and it's just fun to see that.
It's pretty cool. Well done. Congratulations on that. But we're going to paint a scene today of one of your trips to China.
Correct.
And you've already got a mock-up that you've started already, and using your computer as well. I mean, you sort of use science plus the traditional methods also. And what's the type of board that you're using there? So
I'm using a very smooth gessoed panel, and I really like a really smooth surface because, as you will see, it will allow all kinds of different textures and things to occur. So I'm using Gamblin paint here. I really like their company in Portland, Oregon. So let me just go over the palette. What I have today is a Cad Lemon, Indian Yellow. I have Vermilion and Cad Red Light, Alizarin Crimson, Burnt Sienna, Dioxazine Violet, Radiant Violet, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, Viridian, Van Dyke Brown, and Portland Gray. So some of these colors I would consider essential, like the primaries, warm and cool of each of the primaries. I think those are essential. But the other colors I would call convenience colors. And what these are colors that allow me to get mixes quicker so that I'm not spending all that time mixing those paints. So that's why I have those on there. I can definitely mix, a gray or a Van Dyke Brown, but it's just faster that way. It's really important to have lots of paper towels, and that's one thing that's really important to me, is to have a clean brush. So I'll be cleaning frequently. I'll probably maybe use the whole towel roll by the time we're done here. Okay, also I just, as far as the brushes go, I'm using rosemary brushes. I have a series of a mongoose hair and some synthetics, also a watercolor brush, and I'm gonna actually start with the watercolor brush. And I'm using Gamsol, which is a very highly refined mineral spirits, and that's what I'm going to use to thin the paint. I like to kind of, even though I'm working with oil, you'll see some of the techniques I use are actually watercolor style techniques. So that's why I like to start the painting with a watercolor brush. I like to start with my darks, and for me it's all about the shadows at first. Now, when I'm out on location painting, I'm trying to capture the light as much as anything. And so one of the things to do is you have to avoid detail or seeing too much detail, especially in a busy scene like this. Like in Beijing, there's a lot of these hutongs, these alleyways are really quite complex. So what you need to do is you need to be able to squint down and just see the most important feature, because that's going to be my focal point. I don't like to tone my canvas. The colors will be much richer, more vibrant if I do it this way. What I'm doing currently is working on a series of capturing these hutongs, and that's what I tend to do. Is I think artists really like to have a series because they're kind of exploring and kind of doing a deep dive into a certain subject in order to understand it better. Yeah, one of my favourite pieces when I first saw your work was Daitang boats. Just that yellow sunset. I suppose in China these days they've got a little bit of pollution that sort of tends to make it a little thicker. That's right. And that's one thing, traveling around the world, there's just different atmosphere, in different locations, and some areas are cleaner than others, and you're not going to see blue sky a lot although they tell me it's gotten a lot better in Beijing, but it's still, some of the days, quite frankly, I was wearing a mask. It was that bad? It's that bad, yeah. God. Now, one of the tools that I like to use is this kind of rubber scraper. I like to scrape out. So it's not always an additive process, but there's also a subtractive element to it. And what's it, a dry brush or a real rubber brush? Or? It's a brush made out of silicone. Okay. You just pull the paint back out again. Okay, what I'm going to do is start with a wash here. So this is kind of the side wall. So I'm definitely a balance between traditional techniques, but then, I fully embrace any modern stuff. Some people are purists where they will not use the computer. It's all has to be from life and stuff like that. I don't have any of that. I don't feel any need to be a quote-unquote purist in that sense, because in the past, you know, people are always using scientific advances to, you know, in their artwork.
You were also recognized by you won the gold medal at the California Arts Club recently as well. Which,
yeah, that's a neat honor to receive. John Stern of the Irvine Museum,
yes.
He's kind of the world's authority on California Impressionism. And so here in America, he's the guy in terms of kind of traditional landscape painting. And so it was really neat an honor to receive that award.
Apart from us being here today, you've also got a number of DVDs that are available for people to follow through on what you do and the various wonderful locations you go through.
Yeah, I do have a couple instructional DVDs. One's, you know, San Francisco. So when I did my master's degree, I taught at the Academy of Art University for 7 years in the grad program, and I really enjoyed that. But you know, you get busy and you can't teach as much as you would like. You know, the exhibition schedule is pretty heavy over the course of a given year, and so you know, a DVD is a nice way to reach out to people and kind of share. I do love teaching and love lecturing, but you know, there's only so much of me that could go around, right? And one of the DVDs I did, which is called The Master's Mind, is quite innovative. One of the top-selling DVDs made by Plein Air magazine, Streamline. And the reason why it's been so well received is it's based on the neuroscience of learning. And so I talk about how to accelerate your learning process through, you know, techniques of mastery. It's very different as far as the DVD goes. It breaks things down into 6 key components, key lessons in order to achieve mastery in plein air painting. So it's something I'm very happy about, and it's great to see people's lives change because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the many places that you've visited over the years as well is Cuba. I mean, since they opened up the gates again and the Americans can go in, and
right.
Some classics, you were basically saying that it really hasn't changed since the 50s. It's very much the same, and you've got pictures like the Havana Classic, which is like a blue, it looks like a Dodge or something, is it?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go as soon as it opened up, because when that opens up, money starts coming in, it's going to change a lot. And so I wanted to get there before that happened. Just so I didn't paint like pristine things or things that are restored. I wanted to see it as it was. So a big part of my philosophy in terms of color is, you know, the fewer colors you have, the more easily you can control the harmony. So it's not color specifics that I'm after, it's color harmonies. When I make these mixtures, there's a little bit of the other paint that's in there, since it's all wet and wet, that goes in there and kind of, you know, creates this kind of envelope of color that becomes very unifying.
But you've got pieces like Farmer's Fields, which is painted in Utah. That's just a beautiful piece. That's
kind of my, you know, growing up in places like that. That's something that kind of hits close to home. And you know, these farmlands are disappearing, and you know, my generation isn't interested in farming unless they're using GPS satellite and they're sitting in an office while the drone or the remote controlled tractor is going through and, you know, watering or planting or harvesting or that sort of thing. It's just a different vibe. But unfortunately, it's not as pretty, you know, in terms of the fields when you've got that kind of situation.
You work with Pixar as well, doing science fiction paintings, and that's the best way to describe it. And you've got one called Canyon Dwellers, which is pretty amazing. Another one called Industrial Reef. I mean, how did that come about, and what was your part that you played with those guys?
I've decided to want to, you know, kind of exercise the imagination, and even as a kid, I loved, you know, kind of my initial interest in art was all based on the imagination. I think a lot of kids are that way, and so I've kind of come back to it. But I come back to it now with a lot of knowledge of how light works, how atmosphere works, and stuff like that. So I'm kind of endowing these pieces of maybe a future that's even just a little further ahead of how things might look. Kind of a future past in a way, because they're things that aren't shiny and clean. They're, you know, for me personally, I like science fiction with a little dirt in it. You know, I like it kind of rustic and...
Blade Runner.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Okay, what I'm doing here is as things, before things start to fully evaporate, I want to, now that I've got some initial information, I want to kind of cover the canvas with some of these bigger, broader strokes.
The Gamblin paints lend themselves really well to the techniques that you're using also.
Correct, yeah. They give this kind of nice watercolor sort of effect. But then I can, because they're thick, and that's because they just have a high pigment load. If you have a paint, like a student grade paint or something that's of lesser quality, you thin it out this much and it just won't have that same level of vibrancy that you get when you're using a higher quality paint. And so that's one of the reasons why it's worth paying a little extra for a nicer pigment. You get what you pay for. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I think with the progress you're making, it looks fantastic, but I'm going to let you work for a little while and we'll come back shortly once you've done a bit more. Sounds great. Now, as I've kind of got some good information here in the focal point, yeah, what I have to do is make everything relate to the main idea of the picture, which is here. And so these are all supporting elements. Like this is the bride and groom right here, and these are all the bridesmaids with the dress that's not as nice as the bride, right? Because you want to make sure that your eye is going where you want it to go. So one of the ways to do that is with edges here. So up here, I'm going to just deepen the value slightly, just because I want your eye to have more contrast here, less on the edge there. And then same thing on this side. I've got this really bright area right there, and I'm just going to kind of take it down a notch. So one thing you can see with the Strata easel is that it's a very it's very simple tool. It's very fast to set up. Mm-hmm. It takes about 30 seconds to, well, a minute. I have a couple of videos that I show on YouTube where if you go to Strata easel website or on YouTube, if you go onto YouTube, you can just see how quickly you can set this thing up, and that allows you to stop fussing around about your equipment and just getting out there and painting. And I've always said, plein air painting is a sport. Yeah. Right? And having the right equipment and stuff like that, because you can get into some situations where blizzard or I've seen it all. Swirling clouds of mosquitoes, wind gusts, rain coming through. And that's also the thrill of it, that you get to experience some of those things. The easels are sold online at strataeasel.com. They ship worldwide. They hand inspect every single one of them, make sure they're precision laser cut, so you get real high quality product. Oh, one other thing that Strata does that's pretty cool is, and this is because of my belief in that anybody can learn and improve, is Strata sponsors a 30-day challenge. Mm-hmm. And it's on Facebook, so anybody in the world can enter, and it's basically painting 30 days straight, and we do it in 2 different months, in September and January, and basically you have to paint every single day of the month and post it on Facebook to prove that you've done it. And the people that paint every single day for 30 days are entered to win an easel. And Strata gives away 5 easels. And it's just a great motivator. And we have people all over the world doing it. It grows every time we do it, and people have had some amazing experiences. And there's one lady that was diagnosed with cancer, and she said it got her through her cancer. And she had a major breakthrough with her art. She got an article in Plein Air magazine because of it. It's just really neat and exciting to see that. So that's just the belief in you're not just buying an easel, but there's support, there's videos, there's stuff to help artists have a community, a worldwide community, really. All right, for the most part, what I'll do is I'll come back and with a fresh eye another day or two to kind of see what it is that I need to change. But right now, it has a lot of nice energy in it, and I like to leave them at this stage so that I don't overwork them. To me, if I overwork the surface, that's the death of a painting. Sure, somebody might like it, but to my satisfaction, I way prefer have an underbaked painting than an overbaked one.
Sure.
And maybe that's just my training from Plein Air, but that's what I really think that if you're able to take a painting to this stage, I think you're saying everything that needs to be said, and everything else is it could be a little bit of over explanation. Now, if I were to work on this a little bit further, off camera, it would just be a little touch here or two. But you've really seen the bulk of the painting process all here on camera. So I hope you enjoyed the demo, and appreciate you taking the time to check it out.
Thank you so much, Brian. That was an absolutely great day. It really was. Well, I can't thank you enough, mate. That was amazing.
Well, it was a lot of fun.
It was incredible. This is one of the world's leading plein air artists. The man's just amazing. Plus, inventor, lecturer, anything you can think of, he can do it. We want to thank Strata as well, of course, because you're very much tied up with them, and you've obviously, developed the easel with them as well, which is a fantastic easel. So if you wanted to go on, it's Strata Easel. Yeah,
strataeasel.com, STRADA-EASEL.com.
And also the DVDs that Brian does as well. I mean, he has DVDs that help you psychologically to learn how to paint, not just the physics of it, but also the mental aspects. So I really strongly recommend that you go into Brian's website, your website.
BryanMarkTaylor.com, Bryan with a Y.
Yeah, okay. Go in there and have a look, because what he's teaching is essential in many senses for you guys to be able to learn how to paint and not sort of struggle through the whole process. You can come and see us at culinarlylife.com, of course, and our Facebook page and YouTube. We've had an absolutely marvellous day with you. It's been just amazing. He's a very talented man, but we're going to head off again as we normally do. But remember, before we go, make sure you put some colour in your life. We'll see you next time. Bye now, guys. See ya.
Bye.